Hello, you good-looking lot. It's the top 5 at our new time, 5 o'clock. Welcome to the 5 in midfield with myself, Gav Mack, Alex Osborn, and Stephen Buck. How are you, gents?
Very well, thank you very much. How are you?
Really good.
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm very well. I'm very well. Right, this week on our top 5s, we're going to be talking about our top 5 Brazilian footballers of all time. Buck, he's got the memo this week as well about wearing a hat. Got to wear a hat.
Yeah.
Don't wear a hat. Can't take it seriously. Right. Who's your number 5?
Well, my number 5 starts with Cafu.
Yes, Cafu.
Brazilian legend, most capped Brazilian of all time. Obviously led him to the World Cup success back in 2002. And we were saying off air, I can't believe the man is 50 now. He's 50.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's mad. It's 18 years since he won the World Cup. 18 years. And I still got that's for childfare. It's madness.
So, yeah, crazy stuff. It's still in shape. He's in good nick as well, Cafu. I reckon he can still turn up at the racecourse and outplay most people.
Well, I'll probably take him at Arsenal right now.
Number 5 was Cafu for me.
Who's your number 4?
Number 4, I actually went for Marta as my number.
I'll tell you what. That is a brilliant shout. Tell me why.
Marta, wasn't he?
Bit Marta, wasn't he? What made you go for Marta?
Just the influence that she's had on the female side of the game is second to none.
Mm-hmm.
She's got 17 World Cup goals to her name. She's
Strong.
the first Brazilian player of either gender, male or female, that scored and played in 5 separate World Cups. Extremely talented. It doesn't matter whether or not you start looking at, left foot, right foot. Can she take a player on? Yes. Can read the game really well. She's just a very naturally talented player. Would certainly give most of the lads a good run for their money too.
I think she'd actually be able to turn out for men's teams. Very few women footballers that I reckon would be able to turn it on in the men's game, and I honestly believe that she is one that could. So I tip my hat, sir. I tip my hat to that.
Thank you, sir.
Who's your number 3?
My number 3, I went for the little tiny Brazilian that I loved watching.
I'm not Brazilian.
I love a Brazilian. I went for Romario.
Brilliant.
Man has scored over 1,000 career goals, and that is some feat to do.
All over the world as well.
Yeah, for some top clubs too. So we'll come on to the not doing it for top clubs later on in the list. But yeah, I went for little Romario. I love watching him in the 90s. I can't think which World Cup it was. It might have been
94.
Yeah,
He played in 98 as well.
Brilliant little player. Really skillful. Massively underrated. So great.
Absolute talent. Who's your number 2?
I went for the original Ronaldo.
R9.
Haircut and all, but the guy was a monster. Whether or not you wanted power, pace, skill, flair, heading the ball, scoring with either foot, he was just supremely talented and just had everything. He had a bit of a bad ruck with some of the injuries later on towards his career, but you can't shy away from the fact that he played for every top club going pretty much. I was just banging in goals everywhere he went.
Yeah. And who's your number 1?
My number 1 is the legend that is Pele.
Oh, yeah.
So we have a bit of a disagreement about this, don't we? Because Pele, for me, if you look back at some of the YouTube clips and the videos, you listen to the ex-pros, you had a player that was leagues above everybody else that he was playing for. His international stats alone and what he did for the Brazil side when they first won their World Cup, and they tried so long to do it, and he was instrumental in it. Yeah, the man scored 77 goals in 92 games for Brazil, for his country, and a vast majority of those were at championship games. Now, I get that he scored a lot of goals for Santos, and he was very loyal to Santos and stayed there all of his life. And that's probably where we're going to have this little debate over whether or not it's true. But you cannot deny the talent that the man possessed.
You finished?
Yeah.
Pele's a fraud.
Oh. COVID has gone to your head, sunshine.
Pele's international career, I will not take away from him whatsoever. But he reckons he's got over 1,000 goals. Okay, yeah. How many of those were on racecourse pitch 12? You know, how many were down Hackney Marshes? He is not. If he was playing nowadays football, he wouldn't ever get anywhere. I'm talking like if we're looking back at that Brazil team, there's so many players in that Brazil team that would be able to make it somewhere else. Pele is one of the most overrated players in the history of life. You know when people go, oh, okay, you know, who's the best? Excuse me, Pele or Maradona? Maradona, he's gone all over the world. He's won World Cup with them when the Argentinian side were basic as well, and he turned it on and smashed it. He went to Napoli, turned it on. He played it on Barcelona. He turned it all over the world, and he was absolute delight. He's skillful as hell, scores goals, does whatever. Pele, nah, not having it.
No, you cannot just judge one player based on the fact that he had loyalty to his hometown club.
That Pele played, South Americans or even players of most countries didn't really travel abroad anyway because of the travel that it was then, which is what it is now. Even when in Maradona's time, it was a lot more advanced than Pele's case. You to compare Pele to when he played against international competition, which he did. He won Brazil 3 World Cups.
I told you, I'll take my hat off to what he's done at international level, but when he's scored 1,000 goals, oh yeah, what was he goalpost? A shed and a swing ball. Nah, I'm not having it. Right, I'm gonna do my top 5, and I'll tell you one thing: Pele ain't anywhere near it. Number 5 for me is Ronaldinho. Ronaldinho is an absolute magician. For me, he was the best player in the world for a number of years on the spin. I don't think there's much more to say about Ronaldinho. He is an absolute legend. I should have him higher up thinking about it. Number 4, Rivaldo. Because when you talk about the 3 R's back in their day, it was Rivaldo, Romario, Ronaldo, and then Romario got subbed out, so to speak, and Ronaldinho came in that number 10 role. And Rivaldo, one game I remember in particular was at club level when he was playing for Barcelona, the year that Man United won the treble, and just how he turned it on in both legs in the group stage against Man United. And I think that's when I really stood up and was like, wow, this guy is incredible. It was 98. I was 11 years old. I was like, yeah, this guy is the real deal. Number 3, Bebeto, he's a magician, mate. Absolute magician. He's the real deal, in my opinion.
I can't take anything he says seriously when he doesn't have Pele anywhere near the top 5.
Don't need Pele anywhere near the top 5.
Mate, it was an absolute journey.
But Bebeto, I was actually contemplating putting Rai in my top 5 as well because of what he did when he was at PSG in the 90s. If you watch him, Djorkaeff based his game on Rai. And what's that tell you? Look at what a legend Djorkaeff was. And he based his game on Rai. And Rai and Bebeto were very similar in the way they played. But I just think Bebeto is just a little bit better. Number 2, I've gone with Dunga. Because when you think of Brazil, you think of flair, you think of like tidy toes, you think of all these sort of things. But when it comes to a general in midfield, I look at someone like Gilberto Silva, who everyone knows from Arsenal, not that the Arsenal Gilberto Silva, not the one that played for Tottenham. And Dunga was a leader. Him and Cafu, in terms of leadership, are the best leaders that Brazil have had in 2-3 generations. And I think Dunga's impact is of running that midfield won Brazil the World Cup in '94. It's all good scoring goals.
So we're just saying that both Dunga and Gilberto Silva are better than Pele.
Well, they're in different positions, aren't they? So that's like saying Messi's better than Maldini. You don't say that, do you? You wouldn't say that because Dunga is a defensive midfielder and Pele's a forward.
But Pele's not made your top 5, but Dunga has.
Yeah. And number 1, well, it's not going to be anyone else other than Marcos Santos. No, I'm joking. It's the original R9.
Andre Santos said.
Andre Santos. But cut the show.
I was waiting for it to put Marcelino in. He's like, yeah, we'll stick a left back in there. That's fine.
Well, I'm glad that you, Bucky, and myself, I don't know about Alex's list yet, didn't put Roberto Carlos in there because he is a fraud as well.
Oh my God.
Roberto Carlos, when people bang on, people listen, right? Before I carry on, people bang on about Roberto Carlos being the best left back in the world. Could he even defend? If it weren't for that, if it weren't for that free kick against France in Le Tournoi, people wouldn't care less about Roberto Carlos.
He wouldn't have spent 10 seasons at Real Madrid or however long.
Should we talk about some players that have played for Real Madrid for a long period of time?
He won Champions Leagues. He won La Liga. He do not take passengers.
We could talk about players that have played for clubs that have won trophies and things like that. Jonathan Greening's got a Champions League winners medal. Would you have him in your squad? No offense to Jonathan Greening. I quite like the guy. Wes Brown, is he a world-class defender? No. He spent 10 years plus at Manchester United, won countless titles, and won 2 Champions Leagues. Does that mean Wes Brown is decent?
Wes Brown was a squad player. Roberto Carlos was a first team.
Who else did they have at left back? No one.
They didn't have anybody else at left back.
Who else was going to play a left back?
To replace Roberto Carlos if he was that bad.
Whoa. I don't think it's that bad. I just don't think it's that good. And when people talk about, players that, who takes best free kicks? People put him in there. No. Juninho Pernambucano over him. Shinji Nakata over him. Not Nakata, sorry. Nakamura over him. I'd even have Jose Gilabert taking free kicks over Roberto Carlos. So yeah, that's a different story for a different time. But Alex, what's your list saying?
Come on, Alex, talk sense to us.
Gav, who was your number? Was it your number? Was Ronaldo?
Yeah, original Ronaldo. R9 King.
Awesome. Right then, Gav is he lit up the world, didn't he? I mean, his skills, his infection gave him always a smile on his face as well, and he would make people look stupid. But it was, even when he did it against your own team, you're kind of like, yeah, okay, that was really, really, really good. And I still remember that scored against Chelsea in the Champions League, where he had 4 or 5 players all around him, and with just a little sort of hip feint, foot feint, just completely almost as if he was like a superhero. It went I freeze frame him now, and then I was putting the back of the net, and it was, if anything, it's what he was kind of that moment, because it was just 5 players in order of a special talent. Yeah, I thought when he was going for the Ballon d'Or and it was him or Thierry Henry, and I was a little bit upset, because at the time I was thinking Ronaldo, Thierry Henry was the best thing since sliced bread. But in hindsight, Ronaldo was probably the deserved.
Lovely. Who's your number 4?
Number 4, the original Ronaldinho is Garincha.
Oh, wrong image. There you go. That's Garincha.
Some regarded him as the one of the best dribblers of all time, and having looked at YouTube clips over the last day or so, I can see why. Especially in an, obviously, football boots weren't what they were now. The footballs that they were playing weren't what they were now, and certainly the rules were certainly what they were. And he was still able to do that stuff, and he led Brazil alongside another player who's about to pop off my list in a minute to 2 World Cups back to back in the late 50s, early 60s. Certainly, who I think influenced a lot of Brazilians growing up anyway.
Who's your number 3?
Number 3, Romario. Bucky covered a lot of it. He was a prolific striker, very prolific striker. It was one of those where you can't even give him half a yard space, because in that half yard he would score.
What I loved about Romario, especially, it was more his time at Barcelona with the partnership with Hristo Stoichkov. And those two, their relationship was very similar to like the York and Cole relationship. You know, neither of them were very selfish, but both of them had goals in them. And Romario had that flair to add to it. Yeah, you're right. It is a beautiful, beautiful footballer.
If Romario, because he was quite small, wasn't he? He wasn't a physical player, was he? If you think about what he would be now, I would say he would be. I'm not saying Eden Hazard is as good as Romario, but he would play in that kind of position, because you're centre forward now. When you're only playing one up top, you want him to be bigger, you want him to be more physical, don't you? And you put more skillful, more smaller on the wings as inside forwards, inverted wingers, whatever you want to call it. So Romario would probably be the Eden Hazard player who would still be the best player in the team and look to score a lot of goals, but he would certainly be coming more from the flanks. So at the where football was, you're still pretty much your 4-4-2, and you had your bigger striker there. I think you mentioned Beto. I know we wrote him. He was still a good player, but Roberto was your more physical player for Brazil, wasn't he? To flourish, and they certainly helped Brazil to that World Cup in 1994, didn't they?
I think Romario would be better in today's current era of football than what he was when he was in his peak through the 90s. Football has changed. You know, you take a little man like that, and back in the 90s, the ball was in the air a lot. It was a lot of long ball, very direct. It's a lot of kick and rush. Now you've got so much more build-up play, and it's more based around your technique and what can actually be distributed as the play builds. And having those players that have great technique, great agility, and that ability to literally just shift the ball a fraction of a yard, get a shot off, and have it on target. He was perfect and brilliant at it.
Well ahead of his game.
Better now than what he would have been back then.
Yeah, well ahead of his game.
The one game against Man United in the Champions League early when it was like in the first couple of seasons when it beat.
That's the same year when Stoichkov was there.
And I think it was at the time you had the rule of 3 foreign players allowed.
That's right. 2, I think it was.
Barcelona scored, Man United new one, and Romario got himself a couple of goals that day.
4-0 that game. I remember watching that on telly. I honestly remember watching that on TV.
Yeah.
Who's your number 2?
Number 2. Now, my number 2 would have been my number 1 if injuries hadn't robbed him of his peak, right? Even in what was classed as peak years, he was still very good, but he was a very different player in his peak due to such injuries when he first broke on the scene. Of course, I'm referring to my personal favourite time is Ronaldo. He had it all. As Bucky said, he was strong, he was quick, he had skill, he could dribble, he could pass, he could also head, he could lead the line, he could every role in his, and I'm talking when he joined PSV Eindhoven, Barcelona, and in the first season and a half before he got his first injury at Inter Milan, that was the I think that we've ever seen in the world of football.
The history of mankind.
He still had potential then, and then he got that horrible ACL injury. ACL injury at Inter Milan. First one, and unfortunately, because even though medicine at that time was still good, now think of a player ACL now. It's not quite the death knell, or certainly the altering injury that it used to be even back in the late 90s. And if he hadn't have got that injury, he would have been, I think he would be the greatest player of all.
I still think he is the GOAT. Who's your number 1?
I have no doubts about it. I'll just, even in his modified way, when he was more of a poacher, shall we say? Just look what he did to Man United in the Champions League, where he got a standing ovation. He scored, sent him out of the Champions League, all of Old Trafford singing, sign him up, Fergie, sign him up. So, and I don't think that I've ever seen any player play the ground like that. And then number one, Gav's not going to like this. It's Pele. It's Pele. And the reason
I don't like the fact that you changed your list because I ain't got that image. I'm gonna have to recycle.
The reason why it's Pele, it's because he's always cited by not just fans, but people who play, football players who play at the time that he was playing, those who watched him playing growing up, cite it as well. And he influenced a whole generations of Brazilian football players. And yes, Gav, you're right in saying he did come to Europe. He's with Santos, a little bit in, was it the old MLS, didn't he?
New York Cosmos.
In that team with George Best, I believe. Oh my God, imagine being a player on that team. George Best and Pele turning up for training.
Well, Pele would at least be sober. I don't know about George Best. He'd still be hanging.
But he won Brazil 3 World Cups. He was kicked out of another World Cup in England. Who knows what would have happened if he hadn't have been. And it's just that iconic image, isn't it, of him when he scored that header and he's been lifted in the air and he's got his his fist in the air and he's got that big old smile in the World Cup in Italy. And that's the very first World Cup final that was broadcast in colour. And that's an enduring image for me. When I think football and I think Brazil and I think World Cup, that's the image I always think of first.
Well, the best thing that Pele's done is raise awareness about erectile dysfunction. Hey, look, you would have seen all the images come up at the bottom of the screen. At Top Football on all social media platforms. That's our top 5 Brazilian footballers. Who goes in yours? Hey, look, have you got an idea for a show for us? Let us know. Send us a message either on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or leave it in the comments. There's something for us to talk about in the future. But for us, thank you and goodbye.